Just told I have 45 minutes. Those that are laughing know they've heard me speak before. I don't know how long a CD is, but let's go with that. Hey. Hey. Really? I could start crying if I think about walking into this building late yesterday afternoon and seeing the name tags and all the familiar faces and the name tags and all the unfamiliar faces that are familiar that I don't know, but I know. And I don't know if that's your experience. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, please be aware of what's happening around you. There is a revelatory power that exists in Alcoholics Anonymous that can stimulate your life in such a way that you'll never have to live in misery again. Ever. Hi, Katie. Oh, God, I love you. Right on time. Have you guys heard her talk last night? It's good to be disciplined, you know. But, hey, your hair looks great. So it was worth the wait. What Kennedy Fosdick says in the medical view, and that's a little piece of the big book not a lot of people take a look at, refers to this thing called the herd instinct. He observed Alcoholics Anonymous back then and said, can't figure these guys out. I mean, they're mental cases. You know, best day, they're crazy as shit. Crazy. Oh, by the way, on the Hamilton Mountain, shit is not a swear word. So these guys and gals get together, and for some strange reason, whether it's 2 or 222 or 2,200, when they get together, something magnificent happens. The obsession to drink is somehow set aside, and the idea of connection is put in. It comes together. That's the herd instinct. In the foreword to the second tradition, it talks about the need for us to be together. And I'm coming at you like this because I'm a hardcore 12-step guy. I believe Alcoholics Anonymous is the 12 steps. But if we don't have anybody to shoot the breeze with about it, it doesn't mean anything. It takes two or more to have this thing. And if you walked into this building last night like I did, I drove from Hamilton, 2.5 hours of traffic, hit Yonge Street and spent an hour in traffic, dying to get to your loving arms, cursing every goddamn one of you for asking me to come here. If you're anything like me, it's like I fell into your arms last night and I just reveled in it. George staked me in a poker game. I'm up a few hundred, buddy. Thank you. I'm going to give you your money back, by the way. I had a wonderful, wonderful evening last night. Kate, sharing that letter about Charlie with us was a gift. I don't know if it was medicinal for you or the purpose or what. It was a gift to us, because I love Charlie. A lot of what I say and a lot of what I exemplify and the demonstrations of that man live deep in my heart, and I found myself not only quoting him, I find myself actually talking Texan. But I'm not a Dallas fan. That's just one thing. Now, let's get on with this. My name is Marty C. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a member of the Prince George Group in Hamilton, Ontario. Good morning, everybody. Did everybody have a great night last night? Was it great? Sobriety, pretty cool. Okay, so, and it wasn't always like that, right? If it wasn't always like that. I don't know a lot about a lot, but I do know what happened to me. I do know the experiences that I've had. I was raised in this home where alcoholism was rampant, and in its presentation there was violence, there was blood, there was police, there was fiddles and dancing and singing and cards, and I had no idea what was good, what was bad. I was just in that house growing up, and I had no idea how terrible things were in my life until I took my first drink. You know, I played hockey and I hung out with all my buddies and I fished and I paddled the canoe down the Ottawa River and the Petawawa River, and I lived this Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn sort of childhood that was fantastic, with a black eye or a broken finger and going out into the morning each week. And the same kids, like all the kids in the neighborhood, had the same injuries, and we all knew what was going on behind the closed doors. We just didn't say anything about it. We just didn't say anything about it. And the rules in the house that I grew up in was don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. As a young man, a young boy, you don't do that. You don't tell anybody anything. And at 12 years old, the magical 12, I had my first drink. It wasn't my first sip. It wasn't my first drink. It was the first drink that mattered. It was the first drink that had an effect. I had uncles and all that kind of stuff who would give us little shots, little sips of their shots of whiskey or beer and that when we were kids. We thought it was great. It was gross. And they would get interested when we'd get a little tipsy. But at 12 years old, it was going to be my social drinking experiment. This was going to be my day. I had witnessed this. I had seen it. This was going to be my day. And so I open up the refrigerator in the basement. I'm in the home alone. I open the refrigerator. There's a couple bottles of beer there. I take the first bottle out. Social drinking. I grab the other beer and it was 50. And I slam it down. And my parents' laundry room, I'm standing there in an unfinished basement laundry room, just standing there amidst the laundry and the little drain hole in the floor. I have the vivid recollection in my head. And what happens that makes me bodily and mentally different from people who don't have this affliction began to happen. I began to get this warm sensation, was the first sensation I can recall. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everything was great. I had no idea how broken I was at 12 years old until it was fixed. I had no idea how shredded my heart was, how tormented my spirit was until it was all okay. I didn't start dancing around like a good dancer or become a great... I was alone, and I just began to be overwhelmed with this sense of okayness. We call it ease and comfort in our literature. I had never felt that. And damn it, it was nice. And I reveled in it for about 10 or 15 minutes. I just stood there reveling in that beautiful bliss of the effect produced by alcohol. And then the room started to spin. You remember that? Remember room spinning? You got to go back to the early days, I think. Some of us got pretty good at the... We stopped caring whether the room was spinning. They didn't go away. We just stopped caring. But the room started spinning. And it wouldn't stop spinning. And I got out of control. It was whoop, 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 spinning around. I go out into the rec room and then whoop, 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 speeds up. And I go into my bedroom and lay down. And blah, everything I'd ingested the last few days comes flying out. I get a hard-boiled egg, some Kraft dinner, some black licorice, stuck on the walls and the ceiling. And I'm out. I come to in the morning, my face stuck to the pillowcase, covered in all of that goo. The room smelt acidic. My mouth felt like there was a pair of cotton socks up in my mouth, and I was covered in this stuff. And I sat up in the bed, and I was in such pain inside. And, oh my God. My head's going. And I'm thinking, oh, that's the single greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So, I hearken you back to your first effect produced by alcohol. Not your first drink, or the first time the effect produced by alcohol. Because I got to tell you, I began to pursue that with a vengeance. And I went quick. 15 years old, I'm on the basement of my parents' home for the last time. I'm in the bathroom. It's coming out both ends. I didn't puke every time I drank, but when I got sick, I got sick. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm 15. I got my hands wrapped around the toilet bowl as tight as can be, and the condensation and all the other stuff that's commonly found on a toilet bowl. I've got my head resting up against it. Do you guys remember that beautiful feeling of the cold condensation on the toilet bowl? When you're on fire, it's like you're dying of hangoverishness, and you grab that. The Al-Anons are going, oh my God. It's like, hey, guys, yeah, I remember. That was great, and just hanging on to that toilet. And I screamed out at 15, I'm never, ever going to do that again. Ever. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm at a little sports bar in East Burlington. I'm in my third or fourth Caesar, and I don't even remember what took place that morning. It doesn't even occur to me. And I'm off and running. 17 years old. I had this habit. I know a couple of guys that it befell them as well, but I used to get framed a lot. And I just get framed all the time, Well, they're framed again. I don't know if you guys are like this, but I don't ever remember walking into custody. Ever. And I always remember being told what happened. And sometimes I could say, well, that makes sense. And other times I could say, I don't think I did that. And then the evidence would sort of dictate that pretty much, yeah. So anyway, but I get framed a lot. And 17 years old, I'm in custody. And I talk about this, and I'm not taking this, guys, I'm not taking this out of my story. And the reason is because this is where I met you. This is where I met you. I'm 17 years old. I'm in custody. I'm sitting in this room. And I really hope I can get through this talk in 50 minutes. I really do. But I'm in this because this is important. And I'm never going to, again, dishonor or lose the respect or to mention the names that I'm about to mention. But I'm sitting in that cell, and the copper comes in. He says, "Cause, there's someone here to see you." And I said, "Well, who is he?" He says, "He's a pretty big man around town. You be good to him." "Well, who is he?" "Just be good to him." And I walk out into the neutral room, 17 years old, tough guy, badass, Bobby Badass. I walk into that, and I'm sitting there waiting, and in walks this guy. He's like 106. Easy, 106, 110 easy. And he's got this sort of flat gray crew cut, and he's got these icy blue eyes. He's got eyebrows that are way longer than they're supposed to be, and they move around when he talks like these big flaring nostrils. He's got yellow teeth with big spaces between them. And he says, "Hi, I'm Bob." I got to stop describing him like that because I'm actually starting to look like that. And telling this story a long time, but he says, "Hi, I'm Bob." And I go, "Oh, well, hello, Bob." He says, "Can I talk to you for a few minutes?" He takes off his satin jacket, sets it on the back of the chair, and he starts telling me his story. Like all 112 years of it. I'm 17. I don't care. And I'm telling you, this is how it went. He's going on, he starts crying. And I lean on, "Buddy, it's going to be okay." He said, "I had my son in my lap, and I was going to drive the truck into a wall, and now my son's the president of the Canadian Paralympics." And he's telling me this, and I'm in and out. He's up, he's down. It's going to be all right, man. You're going to be okay. You need to drink more. I don't know why you ever give up drinking, man. And so this is our conversation. About an hour. The guy's straight, an hour, and didn't draw a breath. He gets up, he goes, "Thanks for listening," and he leaves. I said to the coppers, "What the hell was that?" He said, "Those were the A&As. I said, "Well, don't let those freaks in here again." And I tell that story for this reason. We had a guy, a lot of us are fairly familiar with him. His name was Bill Wilson. He was in the Mayflower Hotel, and he was walking back and forth in the Mayflower Hotel with the obsession to drink on him. It came on him like he had never known it before. He could hear the tinkling of the glasses. He could smell the cigarette smoke. He heard the laughter and the conviviality, and he wanted some of that. He knew if he went in, he'd just break some conversation with somebody, and maybe he could have some company for the night. He wasn't feeling very good about himself. He was not feeling good about himself. Everything that Bill says in his book is that I was in the throes of a dark depression. I was wanting to end my life, and a new man saved the day. I'll come back to that in a second. So what happens? I got to get this shit off. So what happens is I don't know what the over and under was, but congratulations. So Bill, he doesn't go in and get a drink. He goes in and he gets 20 nickels, and he comes out and he starts pumping them into the phone. And what does he say on the phone? He doesn't call Lois. He doesn't call Ebby. He doesn't call Dr. Silkworth and say, "Please help me." He's saying to every single name on the list, "I need to find a drunk. I'm a rumhound from New York, and I need to find a drunk. I need to find a drunk." Our solution is tied into that. You go back to this Bob guy who I met in the jail that day. Many years later, I go into a meeting. It's a Triangle Action Group in Hamilton, and it's a well-established group. He's now about 132, and he's in the back corner making like the worst coffee you ever tasted in your life, and he'd been doing it for 50 years. And I walk up behind him, and I say, "Hey, Bob, how are you?" He turns on, "Hi, son." And I said, "Do you remember me?" He says, "No, I don't." I described the story to him, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I remember you." And I said, "Why me? What was that? Why me?" "Oh, no, that had nothing to do with you. I was having a shitty day. They told me find a drunk, and I came to the jail and said, 'Is there a piss tank here?' And they gave me you." He didn't come there to help me. The altruism of Alcoholics Anonymous has just been let out of the bag. No more complaining. You don't go to no more complaining. No more bad days. No more bad weeks, bad months. No more complaining. When it hits the fan, that's what we do. And I learned that many years later about an experience I had when I was 17. At 19 years old, again, I get framed seriously this time. They seriously frame me. I'm in a federal penitentiary now. I'm making all these great choices in my life, and you come to me again. I won't belabor that story. I'll tell that story another time. I'll lose it. But while in there, Alcoholics Anonymous keeps coming to me. I would drive to Toronto to come to AA. I would fly you over there. I would walk. I would ride a bike. I would go anywhere for Alcoholics Anonymous because you never stop coming to me. And I can personalize that all I want, but that's just the way AA is. And if you're the guys or gals out there that are getting up late at night, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night when the snow is coming down and getting in your car and driving to an institution, carrying a message, thinking you're not doing a damn thing and you wish you had stayed at home and all, listen, I'm here. I'm the product of that. I'm the product of you operating against your best thinking. I'm the product of you doing this stuff in spite of knowing whether it's going to do anything or not. And a lot of times I hear guys, I go there and these guys don't give a damn. I'm telling you, I was that guy. I was that guy. The legacy, I hope I can demonstrate forever, but I was that guy. So what ends up happening is, I'll fast forward a few years. I'm 23 years old. I had been paroled, successfully paroled. I appealed my sentence. It got reduced, and it just hit the mark that I came out to the street very quickly. I'm in the federal halfway house in Hamilton called St. Leonard's House, and a guy named Bruce and Doug had come up and interviewed me, and they bring me into this alcohol treatment program. And everything was going great. Like, I did not want to drink. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there. This thing about wanting it or needing it and all, I did not want to drink, but that's not a sufficient reason that I'm not going to. It's not a sufficient piece of evidence whether I will or not. I really didn't want to drink. I did not want to crush my family anymore. I didn't want to embarrass my family anymore. I'd done enough of that. I didn't want to drink. And I stayed that way right up until I drank. Right up till I drank. And I was in this federal halfway house that if I drink, I'm going back to prison. And one day, new guy thinking, I get this idea. Marty, when you went into prison, 19 years old, now all your buddies, they have those jobs. Who said that? Thank you. Georgie? Jobs. They got those job things, right? And what else? They got family. They got family. They got family members and jobs. So I thought I should have those things, So I went down to the strip club on Highway 20 in Hamilton because I knew I could get those things that day. So I put on a zoot suit and I put on a bolo tie. I jump on the city bus because I'm so hip, slick, and cool. And I go down and I go into the strip club to get a job and get family. And the waitress asked me a question that I don't have an answer for. And you guys know what this is like. You put yourselves in certain positions. I was not planning on drinking. I was deluding myself, but that was not my plan. And the waitress said, would you like anything from the bar? And I said, bring me an X and a shot of Jack. And as she was walking away, my thoughts weren't, you better get out of here. Trouble's about to come. My thoughts were, I wonder what parent institution I'm going back to. I wonder who my cellmate's going to be. I wonder if I can get my old job back when I get back to prison. Do you see? Alcoholism had me. I didn't have it. I've never had alcoholism. It's always had me. And when I got underneath that understanding, all of a sudden powerlessness took on a whole new meaning. A whole new meaning. And so I go back, another debauch, and I'm bringing this craziness into this halfway house. My parole is suspended, and I'm back in prison. And for 2 weeks, I get to come up with a plan to get out. And I'm telling all these buddies and stuff, riding my coattails, walking up and down and thing, patting me on the back, I'm telling them I'm going to kick those guys, and they're all going right on, cause, top left. Top left. And if you guys know that compelling feature, this isn't peer pressure. This is absolutely insanity. I'm buying into this anger. I'm buying into this wait till they get here. I'm not drinking. I'm sober. I'm not drinking. 2 weeks pass, they come in, I tell them to blow. I don't need them. I don't need their big book or AA. I don't need nothing. Get the hell out of here. And they get up and they walk out. I feel this stuff come up inside of me that I've never felt before. It was an insane rage. I had been this kid who watched a father so explosive that I internalized everything now and never showed anybody anything. And this stuff started bubbling up beside me, and I knew something bad was going to happen. I asked the copper if I could get in my cell, and when I got in my cell and I looked out the window, I see those two guys walking across the parking lot of the grocery store. And I flew into a rage. I just flew into an absolute rage, like a red out, a white out, whatever you want to call it. I just flew into this rage and started grabbing everything I could get my hands on and destroying it, like all my worldly possessions, and comb and toothbrush and stuff, and your big books and blankets, and I'm tearing on them. I'm banging on the desk, and I couldn't bang on the desk anymore. I dropped them, banging on the stool, and I can't bang on the stool anymore. I'm on the concrete, banging on the concrete. Saying, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And that was July the 16th, 1987. That sounds good like that, eh? July 16, 1987. I don't know what was removed from me except everything. There was this weight on me that I didn't know exists, just like when I was 12. And maybe it was drinking that always removed that weight. But all of a sudden, I screamed out, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I heard a voice say, you don't have to. You don't have to live like this anymore. And I didn't see light. I saw internal light, or felt internal light. I stood up with no weight. I had no heaviness on me. The tears dried on my face, and I was like, I was a different person. And I knew that. These people that say you didn't get sick overnight, you're going to well overnight, up yours. Like, that's just lip flapping party line AA bullshit. That's not true. Like this, you go to desperation. You go to desperation and drop, and you ask for the help, and help will come. The help will come. And so I have this experience. And I go to this, all the guys are all at my cell. He's a bug. I was freaking out, right? And I said, go get the copper. He comes back. I said, this happened. I need that guy to come back. He's not coming back after what you said to him. 15 minutes later, he was back. And 15 minutes later, I was on the street again. I got my tail between my legs. I'm in his office. He's got his back to me. And I am beaten. I am done. I have surrendered. You guys know that feeling? I have been whooped into a position that I'd never been whooped in before. I had no plan. I had no goals. I had no nothing. Watch this. A big guy, big Scottish guy, leans into the room, sticks his arms in the threshold of the door, and he says, I'm your sponsor, son. And I said, pardon? He said, I'm your sponsor. I said, hang on, I know I've been drunk in AA for a little while, but why can't I ask someone to be my sponsor? It's because you're too effing stupid. And I said, hey, buddy, like, I'll kick and I'll go. And you see? And then he says, and we're going to go to meetings every day for the rest of your life. And I said, no. I was going to get a family and stuff when I got interrupted. I got stuff to do. You know, this stuff came back, this newcomer stuff, and out of my mouth came, okay. But inside, you newcomers, you new people, you defiant alcoholic beasts, that's what happens when we're given direction, specific direction. That's what happens every time. I got to remember that when I'm working with a new guy. That's the default. No way. I'm doing that, and then they start doing it. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like. So, but what ends up happening is me and I jump into this guy's back pocket, and anybody knows him knows me. Anybody that that's just the way it is. I'm in his back pocket for 5 years. Every single day we went to meetings. We'd run around helping people, doing stuff for people. We'd sit at Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. We'd hear some young lady come in there, and I haven't got the meat to make the sandwiches for my kids tomorrow morning. And we'd go to the all-night Sobeys and grab bags of groceries, and we'd run back to the house, put them on the step, jump in the bushes and watch as she opened the door and say, oh, praise Jesus. And we go, tee-hee-hee. And he'd say, now you can't tell anybody, son. It'll undo it. You can't tell anybody. And then the next day, everybody in Hamilton would know about it. It wasn't me. I'm solid. I might be the only solid guy I know, actually. But he says, you can't tell anybody, and he tells everybody. Anyway, I had this Alcoholics Anonymous experience where I was connected to you right away. I fell in love, like Katie said last night. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew that you were my people. I knew that. I've never rejected that, had an issue with that. Like I said, I have always loved AA. I've never struggled with it. And but what ended up happening was let's see, where do I want to go with this? There's all kinds of stories. Oh my God, 36 years sober. There's all kinds of stories in there. But where do I want to go with this? I jump with both feet into Alcoholics Anonymous. I grab the keys to my group. I'm setting up the group. The group grows. And we got a 12-step table. We're reading the steps and all that kind of stuff. And we're involved. We've got a hot meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous in Hamilton. And I go to meetings every day. I like the meetings where there's scraps on the Saturday night at the Delta group. I mean, physical scraps. I like those meetings. On the Friday, if someone was getting punched there, it was a bad meeting. That's how you evaluated it. And so I've got this AA life going on. 4, 5, 6, 7 years. My mother is elated. She loves you. You saved her boy. Some of you have met my mom. You saved her boy. She'd come to my anniversaries. Because it was a closed meeting, I'd boot her out as soon as I got my pen. You got to go, Ma. And it was solid. And she loved you and praised you all the while. I mean, she would tell her friends, honest God, I was 5 years sober and this happened. She would tell her friends, Marty has a car. And not only is it his, it's got the same plate on the front as on the back. Seriously. I had really sort of come up in the family success. And so She would brag about me. That's how she would brag about me. And but she just loved you guys. And 6 and 7 years sober, I get educated. And 8 and 9 years sober, I'm involved in all kinds of relationships, nefarious at most, all nefarious, untrue, not real, AA, out of AA, crazy stuff. I'm a young guy, and this is just what was going on. And at 9 years, I have a beautiful little girl, Gidget, 9 years sober. And I talk about this because all that time, going to meetings and all that kind of stuff, the reference was always about not drinking. The reference was about not drinking. That was the goal. And you would applaud people for not drinking. They'd tell you about some crisis or calamity they went through. And did you drink today? No, it was a good day. And isn't that lovely? You have a major loss or a crisis in your life, and the old geezers are saying that to you. And I start repeating what they say, and so do you. So do you. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas. So do you. We repeat stuff in here so much it starts to sound like AA, and it's not. So anyway, I'm going through this life, and I have this beautiful little girl, and I'm looking at her, and I realize it's not about not drinking. This is all about love. This recovery, this AA and stuff is all about love. It isn't about not drinking. And so now you hear my old CDs and tapes and stuff. It's all about love, 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 love. I'm flying around Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, hugs, not drugs. And it's all love, and everybody is it's all just love one another. It's a lovely, lovely thing. And that was my AA. And that went on for a few years, and then I started meeting some of these capital G guys. It wasn't that I had avoided God. I didn't have a problem with God. I just thought that God had a problem with me. And at some point we would reconcile in the by and by, and that would be it. And I'm just going to try to do good things, good deeds. That's what I'm going to try to do. And that was my life. I was living that way, but I met these guys who really believed in this capital G God. And I started hanging with them, and it was pretty cool. Very cool, actually. All of a sudden now I'm like reading all kinds of spiritual books and praying and meditating, and we're running through the woods naked, like Robert Bly says, screaming, yeah, 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 getting in touch with our maleness, and we're giving each other prisms and stones at anniversaries, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful Bed Bath & Beyond thing. It's lovely. It's just serious. It's really nice. It's very nice AA. God, on fire for God. It's all about God. And I realized that AA wasn't about not drinking. It wasn't about love. It was all about God. Oh, man, it hit me like a ton. And so I began to seek. I began to seek quietly, but I began to seek. And slowly I start having lingo and language, and I get asked to be the Sunday morning speaker, like our friend Steve is the last speaker tomorrow. Slowly I get asked to be the Sunday speaker because, damn it, I'm a spiritual dude. I've got God all over me. And you know it, and I know it, and this is beautiful. And so I'm sitting there at this conference, and I'm sitting out having a cigarette. Out walks this dude, big, buxom, barrel-chested bad guy, handsome, silver white hair, which I really admired, by the way, with my dark curls many years ago. and he's got this beard. He looks like a James Coburn guy. He looks like James Coburn. He looks like the Marlboro Man. Tough guy. Really fit, smoking 5 cigarettes at a time. And we were talking about like fitness. That's what we were talking about. We're talking about health. Oh, I got to stay in shape. And have you tried an Export A? But I'm telling him about my AA life like I am you guys. I'm telling him all about my beautiful AA life. Like I am the king of AA in Canada. If you look AA up in Canada, I'm your guy. That's me. Nice to meet you. And he's just listening. He doesn't say a word. He's listening, hauling on one cigarette after another. And he says, you're asleep dreaming, you're awake. Now, I didn't invite his opinion. But I heard it. I didn't know what he meant, but I heard it. And something happened to me. Don't forget, I'm the Sunday morning spiritual speaker. Something happened to me. He said, you're asleep dreaming, you're awake. And I said, I don't know what that means, but that sounds like an insult. Are we going to throw down here? And he said, no. He says, there's an experience in Alcoholics Anonymous I can tell you've never had. Now, we have a lot of like-mindedness in our area now. But this wasn't like this 20 years ago when I was telling this story. In fact, it got bucked a lot. I got a bad reputation for being this guy and all that kind of stuff. But he said, there's an experience in AA I can tell you've never had. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Have you guys caught on yet? I haven't talked about steps. I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous for 14 years and have never had a step experience. Not one not a first step experience, not a second step experience, not a fourth step experience, a fifth step experience, 8 or 9 step experience. I haven't had a step experience at all. And in a conversation about my deep love and participation in AA and the fact that I own this community, he saw that I actually had never done AA. Why would you be in a 12-step program and not take the steps? Why? Because when in Rome, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming groupthink. If you get hurt personally, take it up with your sponsor. Or I still like to throw down every once in a while. I'll go you. I don't give a shit. But the bottom line is the 12 steps is the program of AA. This beautiful thing that we got here this weekend is the opportunity to talk about the 12 steps and be demonstrations of the fact that this shit actually works. And if there's new people here, it's the steps. It's not the ORC. It's the steps. The ORC is a beautiful place where we get to polish up and get out of our prison clothes and come here with our ankle bracelets and shit and say hello to each other and hug one another and say, oh, God, it's been a long time since I've seen you. You know? But what this man said to me, he said, if you want that experience, I can help you with that. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, follow up to my room. I'll take you through the steps. I said, that's blasphemy. I didn't get sick overnight. I'm not going to get well overnight. You know, you can't take this step. Follow me. We walked through the door, and as the door shut, he turned around. He set down what he had in his hand. He turned around and he looked at me and he said, I'm going to talk to you about something that you may have never heard before. And we talked about powerlessness. And he told me that powerlessness is the only issue in AA. You either are or you aren't. Has nothing to do with anything else other than the power, being there or not being there. And I had to admit that I had never had that consideration before. Can you stop when you start, and can you stop starting? That's powerlessness. I was in the midst of that and didn't even know it. And it goes on and can be extrapolated into realms that are unbelievable. But that was what I had become. I'd never been qualified as an alcoholic. I sat beside you week after week, day after day, as saying it because you said it. And I love the old guys in AA, and I'd say what they said. And because I felt like you felt, I began to think that we were the same. And I had no idea. I had no idea how different some of us are. But the bottom line is that he qualified me for the first time. And he said, powerlessness demands power. You need power. There's a natural conclusion when you look into the unmanageability of your life. It doesn't mean the terrible things that happen. It means your life can't be managed by you. You need another manager. What's your relationship with God like? I talked about it a little bit outside. And I said it's like a Bush League pinch hitter. When trouble comes, I blame God. When I get out of trouble, I take the credit. That's my relationship with God at 14 years sober. And God darn it, people like me today. You know what I mean? All that positive affirmation stuff. I haven't robbed a bank in a long time. These are my levels of assessing myself. I haven't done this. I haven't drank. You know. And he says, okay. He said, now I had this Bush League pinch hitter, God, and he says, you have an understanding of something around the power. And he says, let's talk about the real proposition that you might be facing on a day-to-day basis. God is either everything or else he is nothing. Think about that. Think about your day. It's only noon. How many of you have mucked that up already? God is either everything or else he's nothing. Not a little bit, not a tiny bit, not 70%. He's everything or he's nothing. And he said to me, what's your choice? And I started to weep. And he came over and he put his hands around me. He just put his hands around me and put his hands on my shoulder. He said, you want to be free? I said, yeah. Selfishness and self-centeredness. That is what's killing you. And I swear to God, I'm sitting there thinking, where is he getting this shit? Now, you Hamiltonians that are 20 years plus sober, don't be offended. Nobody was reading the big book in the area that I was in. Nobody was asking you to read the big book in the area I was in. Don't contest me on this, please. It's getting nauseating. I'm 36 years sober now. 22 years I've been listening to your horse shit about, oh, Marty, I was taking the steps, and oh, Marty, I read the big book. And it's like, what'd you do? Keep it secret? Like, in our community, you took the steps but decided not to share it with anybody else? I would suggest there was a different set of steps you took. But the bottom line is, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, is we come into these environments. If you're a brand new person walking into A&As and your life is torn to shreds and you got a wife or a partner, or someone driving you into AA, or a doctor or an employer driving you into the AAs, you're going to come and sit and be and do as whatever is there. That's what's going to happen. And over time, you will begin to have an experience that's different, and you will believe you're having an AA experience. And it looks a lot, and then people come to these things, and they're alive, and they're fresh, and they haven't drank in 2 or 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, and their lives got better. The idea here is, if I don't take these steps, my life gets worse. That 14 years of sobriety, I was still whoring around like a smut king, and I was still robbing, lying, and stealing. I was blowing up cars for people in AA. I was doing all kinds of stuff, like to make money and stuff. But I didn't drink today. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know what your poison is. I don't know what you... Everybody has that stuff, whether it's pornography or whether it's infidelity, or everybody has that stuff. But that was mine. Mark talks about selfishness and self-centeredness in a way that I'd never heard. He said, would you say a prayer with me? I said, I would. He took the coffee table and he swiped it away with one big bear paw swipe. I got down on my knees, and he got down on his knees, and then he was my height. And I got down in front of him, and again, he draped his arms over top of me, and he didn't say a word for about 2 very uncomfortable minutes. And I'm going, this is weird. This is weird. I'm in a hotel room with a strange dude. He's got his arms wrapped around me. Something bad's coming. And he says, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. And I said, God, I offer myself. What was the rest of it? I offer myself. And then, as we're going through it, and this is not a joke. I'm thinking, oh my God, where's he getting this? This is beautiful. Relieve me of the bondage of self. You take away my difficulties. And I'm thinking, what difficulties? How about all the ones I've had for the last 14 years? You take away my difficulties, and I'll bear witness. I'll tell people. Mark told me your job is to tell people exactly what happened to you. Exactly what happened to you. You bear witness to this. And that third step experience I had there in that room at 14 years sober, coupled with my love of Alcoholics Anonymous and all that kind of stuff, changed my life. And I began to look more in here about my recovery instead of out here. That's what started to happen from that day. When I stood up, Mark put me in inventory for the first time. I had never seen a 4-step inventory like this. I saw it in our book when I first got sober. The books were in prison. I saw it in there. And that, I thought, 1939, the guy's lame. I mean, that's a lame time. That was a lame time. The morality in that, it wasn't objectionable to me, none of that stuff. You know, all the stuff Bill, it wasn't objectionable to me. And I thought, oh my God, you know. You fast forward now, the 15 years, and I'm in there now, and I'm looking at this inventory for the first time. Mark put me in the inventory. I did my 5th step, and I had a contact with him, one more contact with him, and we communicated about where do I go with this. That was Mark Houston. And in one night, in one evening, one afternoon, this man changed my life. And this is what we do. I met a guy yesterday when I came out of the Kate's meeting. He pulled me aside and he said, you had a conversation with me here at the ORC a few years ago, and he said, you changed my life. I haven't drank since. And he's one of the volunteers here. He said, you changed my life. We don't know we're doing that, eh, Kate? We don't know we're doing that. We're just doing what it is that we're asked to do. Now, I set upon coming back to Hamilton with this renewed vigor. 14 years sober, and I got the answer. God damn it. You know, and I started befriending people like Chris Raymer and Charlie Parker and Katie, and we're running around doing stuff. And Chris Schroeder's one of my best friends, and Steve, and we're running around talking about these things and having a good time doing it. And I bring you guys up, Kate and Charlie came up, and they presented to the area, and then it grew. And then the like-mindedness began to grow. And then the herd instinct started to take over. And then we found the need to be together. And we do that. We come together. Like-mindedness draws us together. And it's very interesting because as we do that, every once in a while, a little calf with all bent legs and all screwed up, an ugly-looking little bastard, that's the new guys, you new guys and girls. You're kind of scurrying around the outside, and you can't get in the middle of the herd. And some of us guys are going, yeah, I'm banging the podium. You got 4-step. And we're doing that, and we see you wandering out there, and we pull you in. And we get you into a corner somewhere, and we open a book. And we have a conversation about the very thing that's going to save your life. And you will only do that yourself if you've had that experience. In step 12, we're compelled to carry this message, the message that we got sitting in the corner with the book. We're compelled to carry that message. Not don't drink and go to meetings, not that stuff. That message. That's the message. That's the message we're compelled to give. You know, in my life, and I don't know, how many, what's that? Is that this one? You guys want to see what she just gave me? I made my own. I'm on to you guys now. I made my own before the meeting even started. So somewhere in all of this stuff, I end up with a whole bunch of kids. God has a sense of humor. I have 4 daughters and a beautiful wife, Leslie. And if you've been in my home and you've been in my life, you know the adoration that I was about to say that we share for each other. I'm not sure. It's our anniversary. She's going for our anniversary tonight down in St. Catharines to a concert. Well, I'm not sure you should clap, George. I'm here with you guys. That's our AA life. That's our AA life. I was asked to do this a long time ago, and Leslie says, I got these tickets for this Led Zeppelin show down in St. Catharines. I go, excellent. Back up a second. She comes to me on March the 10th, and she wraps her arms around me downstairs, and I'm just getting ready to put the hockey game on. She wraps her arms around me. She whispers in my ear. She says, happy anniversary. And I turn around, I look, and I go, it's March the 10th. And she goes, I know. And she starts laughing. And she goes, it was yesterday. And I go, no, it wasn't. It's March the 7th. We don't even know when our anniversary is. That's how important it is. So that's how this works. So she's at the concert. But my home is like this Alcoholics Anonymous home. Barbecues, all that kind of stuff, and gatherings, and we get together and taking guys through the work in the basement. My life has been sort of generated around a love for Alcoholics Anonymous and a mixture of that into my family life. That's the way it is. But you go through this stuff, and you know, I want to be very clear about this program and my beautiful friend Sandy Beach, and that you download his talks about what I'm about to talk about. This goes so far beyond not drinking and drugging. This goes so far beyond a relationship with God. It goes so far beyond, because all I did from 14 years sober till about 30 years sober, 32 years sober, was anything and everything that was asked of me. That's all. Nothing more and nothing less. And I stayed in the middle of this thing and stayed current and stayed invested in this stuff all the time. I looked at these steps, and I looked at this 10th step, and I practiced the 10th step. You know, I looked at it, and I'm living by the 10th step. And one day I'm driving down to my meeting, and I get a phone call that my daughter Sarah's hung herself. And I'm on my way to my Thursday night meeting, which is my favorite thing to do in the whole world, is to be with you guys. And I pull the car over, and I lose it. I start smashing the inside of the car, smashing the mirror off the car. I start losing it. And then I'm going to come overwhelmed with this sense. Is God everything or is nothing? It's like, have you learned nothing? And I put my car in drive, and I go down the hill to the meeting, and when I pull into the parking lot, Brian's standing there, my workshop partner. You guys know Brian. And I fall into his arms. And I cry. And he says, what do you want to do? And I said, the drunk buggy pulls up, the old Prince George group there, a couple piss tanks fall out on the ground. And I said, oh boy, we got some stuff to do here. And we get them in the meeting in the back room, the old back room, and we have about a 20, 25, 30-minute meeting. I'm sitting on my hands. I don't know what to say or do. I'm overwhelmed with this sort of paralysis. And Bryce says, let's go to the hospital. We go down to the hospital. I walk in, and Leslie's standing there, and I hold her, and she's sobbing, and I kissed her on the ear, and I said, it's going to be okay. It's because I knew it was. And I went up to the doctor's office, or the doctor's station, the nurse's station, and I thanked them for helping my daughter. She was in ICU. She was all wired up. She didn't die, but she's never been the same. The damage was irreversible. But I said, thank the doctors and the nurses. Now, I want you to picture this stuff in your head. I'm thanking them. I got the news 45 minutes before. I'm thanking the doctors and nurses for everything they've done. I was inside my car, exploding, smashing, defaulting like I was in that jail cell that day. And now I'm kissing my wife and telling her it's going to be okay, and I have this inside of me. It's going to be okay. And the doctors and the nurses, thank you. And I walk in, I put my hand underneath Sarah's head, and I kiss her on the forehead, and I tell her it's going to be okay, because I knew it was. You want to see what 10th step looks like? That's the 10th step. It isn't in your big book. It isn't in your big book. It's in your heart and your understanding, as Sandy Beach, when he lost his children. It's in your heart. You don't know why you're being prepared for this life stuff that comes at you so hard and furious that you just want to scream. It doesn't matter about the loss. It doesn't matter about the pain. It matters about being right here, right now. The 10th step gets me in this moment. Some of us try to hold on to old ideas. The old ideas is what causes the pain. Don Major said, like, I can't take God into the future or into the past. The minute I think about this morning when I got up at 9, or the moment that I think about 2 o'clock this afternoon, I don't take God with me there. I take God with me right here, right now, with you. And I say to these sisters in the back room all the time, I ask the guys and the gals, if I asked you right now, what's wrong in your life? Right now, in this moment, what is wrong with your life? What's wrong in your life? You'd have to say, well, nothing. But your ego will quickly surge up and remind you that you've had a devastating loss, that you owe money, that you're being found out, that someone's lying to you or cheating on you, or your marriage is breaking up, or you're bankrupt, or that your ego grabs onto stuff and throws it in the mix to tell you you are not okay right here, right now. The truth of the matter is you are. Right here, right now. Where did I learn that? I learned that listening to a speaker tape of Sandy Beach when he was lying on the gurney and got the news that his daughter was murdered. And he laid back and thought two things. Those only two things are is I'm going to have to forgive the perpetrator. And the other thing was, why not now? And when you look at the 6th step in our literature, I'm giving this little secret to you guys. You start learning about a concept of time that none of us live in, that it's very difficult to live in. And that's now. It's introduced to you in the 6th step, and it's absolutely driven home in the 10th step. And I live in this 10th step. And my daughter calls me. Did I really only have 5 minutes? How much do I got now? So, any of you Facebookers know my oldest daughter, Dana, was diagnosed with several cancers in the last few years, and AA came to the forefront through COVID. Oh, my God, you bought T-shirts, you put brain cancer, the tumor was going to kill her. They got it out of her. She survived brain cancer. And then she goes back to the doctor, and they tell her, oh, she got lymph nodes cancer. It's in your lymph nodes. And so they blast the living shit out of her, and oh, boy, she survives that cancer, too. And it's like, oh, my God, she's going through this stuff. She's up, down, her body is changing. She's being just blasted with this medical treatment. It was awful to watch. She's got 2 little girls. Leslie and I are involved in just managing some of that stuff. And then just when she thinks she's out of the woods and everybody knows, and I was getting all these cards and messages and stuff about, isn't it wonderful that Dana's better? Last December 12th, a year ago, December 12th, she got news that she got stage 4 lung cancer, massive array of tumors in her lungs, and that she's got 8 months to live. And in that time, she's been blasted with radiation because they couldn't give her chemo anymore. She had had so much. And her jaw has fallen apart, and her body's really, really changed, and she's sick. She's sick a lot. She's sick right now. And yesterday, we were waiting for some results in a colonoscopy because she's all blocked up in there. All her organs are damaged and all that kind of stuff. My beautiful oldest daughter is very, very ill. Now, when she got that brain tumor diagnosis, I got a call at my office. I want you to remember, so Sarah was about 5 years ago, my middle daughter, who's still on the street. And then Dana was just before COVID hit. So my experience in the car that day when I lost it, and then Dana. When I got the call at work, I was sitting at my desk, and Dana says, I got a brain tumor. And I said, mother, and I slam the phone down, and I look up, and I get into a private room, and I start screaming at God, and then I thought, again, minutes, have I learned nothing? And I thought, she's coming here to see me. She needs me right now. She's coming here to see me. God, please take this from me. Please take this from me. I walked out and I told my coworker, I just got a message. My daughter's really sick. I'll be right back. Yeah? When these things crop up, what do? I ask God to remove it. I tell somebody about it. I walked down the stairs, and when she came around the corner, by the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, I was her dad. I wasn't a goddamn self-centered lunatic. How could you do this to me? Is the question all the time. Why is this happening to me? I love AA. I do all this stuff. I help people all the time. And this is what I get? That's where the ego wants to take me. Separate me from this stuff. Separate me from you. And I go down the stairs, and she falls into my arms. And I hold on to her, and I kiss her on the ear, and I say, Dana, it's going to be okay. And it's because I knew it was. And I am sober and available to her. And I'm available to you. I'm looking over here, a couple of my buddies that I'm falling in love with, Jimmy and Mikey, and I'm just falling in love with you guys. You know, back into this stuff and back into life-changing stuff. I'm not supposed to be here. You called me and asked me to come here and allowed me to be a part of your lives. I'm so blessed and so grateful. I want to thank you for listening.